Okie dokie, folks. Hello. Hi, everyone. Okay. Hi. Happy Saturday, everybody. I am here in the playpen with Rosalita, and I thought I would do a quick hello and talk to everybody, do some discussions, Q&A, let everybody spend some time with Miss Strawberry Girl here. You might be able to tell I'm a little bit under the weather, so I apologize if my voice is a little bit scratchy. But hi, everyone. Wow, there's so much activity in the chat. Hi, everyone. Okay, so this is Rosalita. How many of you guys watched her video? I have a rescue video of her, and now she is 5 weeks old. Can you believe it? She looks so cute. Rosalita is a really, really good girl. So there she is. So we can do some playtime with her. I brought a bunch of toys in here to show her and play with her with. And if you follow me on social media, you've probably seen a little bit about her head tilt. Can you guys see how her head is tilted? Woo! So Rosalita, she has a slight head tilt. Her head is kind of always going a little bit to the right. And the thing about kittens is, we've had her since she was 0 days old. And when she was a baby, you can't really see these types of things because when they're babies, they're very wobbly. They're, just kind of wriggling around. And as they get older, they start to be able to be upright. They start to be more coordinated. And that's when you can really start to see, oh, there might be some kind of issue here. So her head is always sort of tilted to the right. And then once she was reaching 3 weeks, 4 weeks, now 5 weeks, it's become much more evident that something's going on. So yesterday she went to the neurologist, and they basically said, what a cute kitten. Unfortunately, we can't do anything with her right now because she is too little. They don't even have instruments small enough to look into her ears with to see if it's a polyp or an ear infection. So basically, now we wait and we find out in a couple weeks what's going on with her. You are so sassy. You're such a sassy girl. So this morning I asked for people to submit questions and discussion topics on my social media. You're also welcome to do that here. The chat is really, really fast, so please bear with me if I don't see your question. But I have some questions from social media that I can get started with. So let's see. Okay, so I thought this was a really interesting question. This one was from Facebook. This is from Penelope. Ooh, you are so sassy. The question was, when you walk into a shelter you've never seen before, what are some signs that you look for about how well they treat the animals, whether you want to work with them or whether you want to work with the shelter or if you know if you can trust them to adopt out one of your foster parents. So this is really a question about like how do you tell if a shelter is one that you want to work with or not? What do you look for when you walk in? Well, every organization is going to be different. Every organization is going to have different protocol, different ways that they do their adoptions, different resources and abilities. And so I think the important thing is finding one that works for what you're looking for. She's so mouthy right now. In terms of the welfare of the animals there, a good thing to look for is, is there enrichment in the enclosures? Are the cats, even if they're in a cage, do they have an enriched life? Do they have toys? Do they have maybe a little perch they can go on? Do they have something they can bat at? Is it kept clean? Those types of things. But I would say just because they don't have everything that you want them to have does not mean you should not work with them. In fact, shelters that are struggling are the ones that need our help the most. So if you go to your local shelter and you see, hey, there's a bunch of cats here that have no enrichment at all, there's no toys for them to play with, a good thing that you could do is donate toys or talk to them about enrichment. You could say, hey, I want to volunteer to develop an enrichment program for you guys so that your cats have what they need. Now that is something that you could do for if you're working with cats in a shelter setting. If you are looking to an organization to see, do I want to foster with them, then you really want to just talk to their foster coordinator and ask some questions. Things like, what happens if a kitten gets sick? Am I able to bring them in right away? Is there someone I can call on the phone and talk to them about it? Or am I really, going to be on a wait list to get information? Most of the time, organizations have a way that you can contact them very quickly if something goes wrong. Oh my gosh, you got scared by something. This is another thing about Rosalita. She does hiss and get scared of stuff. She's a very interesting cat. You guys will see as we're hanging out here. She has some behaviors that are very unique, and I think that is why we were thinking neurological, because she can be very, very sassy. She's a little bit delayed in some of her movements, and she does hiss a lot, which is really, really weird for, excuse me, really bizarre for a kitten who we've had since they were 0 days old. I don't know if you guys can hear her. What? Do you need to play? Let's get her some stuff to play with. Now, as I'm talking about all of this, of course, there are organizations that are going to work for anyone. So the important thing is finding one that works really well for you. I think that some of the biggest questions people have when they are trying to find an organization to work with is things like, how involved is the foster parent in the adoption process? Maybe you want to be the one who finds them the home, or maybe you don't want to have to find them the home at all. You just want to be able to bring them back to the shelter and drop them off. You can do some looking into their adoption questions or their adoption process and find out, is this an organization that does an adoption process that you feel comfortable with? But I would caution you to not be too skeptical of organizations, because everybody's working within the resources they have and what's available to them. So, if you have an organization that you think is not perfect, don't let perfection get in the way of doing something good. You being there could be the thing that helps them improve. So I hope that is a helpful answer to your question. Let's see. There are a lot of people in the chat. So please be patient with me. I can't read every single question, but let's see. Okay. And Rosalita has gone off screen. Okay. I'm getting a lot of questions about how do you get involved in fostering. I have a website, kittenlady.org, that has lots of answers to those questions. So answering everything from, how do you find an organization? How do you, figure out where to go foster to, how do you actually do the care of kittens? If you're looking for an organization, the best thing to do is just hop on Google. Go to google.com, type in, kitten fostering or just fostering and the name of the area that you live in. You can look up animal shelters, animal rescues. Definitely, Googling, like I live in San Diego, so I would look up San Diego Animal Shelter and then go on their website and see, do they have a tab about fostering? Can you fill out an application online, or do you need to go in and get a form to fill out? You can give them a call on the phone and talk to them about that. But any shelter or rescue organization you call and offer to foster or volunteer for is going to be really, really happy to have you. She's so funny. Another funny behavior she does is she walks backwards a lot, which is another kind of slightly weird neurological thing. And so you'll see all of that. It's hard to show a lot of her behaviors on social media because it's a lot of still images or short videos. But as we hang out here, you can kind of notice that she is a little bit different. Different is not bad. It's just different. But she's a funny girl. I did bring a bottle in here to give her. Okay. A lot of questions from kids on YouTube saying, how old do you have to be to foster? There are people who are, kids that foster with their parents, and I think that that's awesome. That's something that you can do if your parents are interested in fostering and you can help them. I think that fostering is a great summertime activity, so you can talk to your parents about, hey, can we do one litter of kittens in the summer? Your parents are the ones, you have to be an adult to foster for most organizations, pretty much any organization. So have your parents talk to the local shelter about fostering during the summer. That's a great time for you to help out if you're a student. And it's the time when kittens need the most help because that's the time of year where kittens are being born in huge, huge numbers. Now, in San Diego, we do have kittens all year because it's very warm here. But I assume a lot of you, if you're in the United States, it's probably not that warm where you are right now, so you probably don't have as many kittens in need. So let's see what other questions we have. Let's see. This is a question that I've gotten quite a bit more lately, which is a little bit disturbing to me. The question is about, can cats be vegan? And I think I'm asked this question a lot because people know that I am vegan and they assume maybe that means I feed my cats a vegan diet. Totally not. In fact, Rosalita is working on learning how to eat meat right now. So I just want to go over that a little bit. So cats are obligate carnivores. And what that means, what an obligate carnivore means, is that they have a biological necessity to eat meat. They can't survive without eating meat. So unlike humans, I've been vegan. I've been vegetarian. I haven't eaten meat in 19 years or something like that. Crazy. But I've been vegan for like 16 years, and humans can do that. Now, a cat cannot do that. I do receive really upsetting messages from people who try to feed their cat a vegan diet, and they get very sick. They get jaundiced. They're weak. They can die that way. Especially a little kitten like this. Oh my God, no, she definitely needs to be eating. This is a milk replacer that has animal fats and animal proteins in it, as well as obviously her meaty food that she's weaning onto. Cats don't have the enzymes to break down the carbohydrates that are present in plants, and that's why you don't really want to be buying food that even has a lot of plant additives in it. Like there's a lot of cat foods out there where the first ingredient is corn. Well, cats don't break down corn like that, so we don't need to be giving them plants. We need to be giving them meats. How do I deal with that as a vegan? Well, I think it's very, very complicated. Like most things in life, navigating any ethical issue is complex, and there's not like one perfect answer to any of it. I think that it's totally understandable if you're a vegan who does not want to feed your cats meat or feed an animal meat, and in that case, you probably should not take a carnivore into your home. But if you're going to have a carnivore, it's really unethical not to give them the proper diet, especially because, think about what does it mean to have a pet? Really, what it means is you're taking an animal captive. These are animals, these are individuals who don't have a choice then. Once we take them in as a pet, they're really at our whim. And if we decide that we're going to feed them nothing but Sour Patch Kids, then that's what they get to eat, but that's going to kill them. That's not an ethical thing to do. For me, being a vegan is about making ethical decisions, and the ethical thing to do if you're working with cats is to feed them a meat-based diet. And I actually am going to feed her some meat while we're all here. Maybe that would help you feel less fussy. She's like, I'm feeling crazy. I need to eat my meats. So yeah, I think it's complex. Obviously, where there is choice, I think a great choice is to eat a plant-based diet. I have that choice, and I do make that decision myself, but she doesn't have the choice. Because look at her. This is a little carnivore. She's got the teeth to show she's a carnivore. She's got the GI tract to show she's a carnivore. She's got a biological need for meat. So please do not try to feed your cat a vegan diet. It is not going to go well. It's a really unethical thing to do. And there are plenty of animals you can have in your life who are herbivores. I used to have a rabbit, and she was lovely. And having a rabbit is a great thing to do if you're a vegan who doesn't want to feed an animal meat. So, okay, let's see. Have you ever fostered a dog or puppy? I have. I've fostered several dogs and puppies, although never on purpose. I know that sounds crazy. Basically, I will help any animal that uh-oh, Rose is going to step on the computer and take us out of the chat. I'll foster any animal, or I'll help any animal that I personally find. I've never signed up to foster a puppy or a dog, but I have found a lot of dogs and puppies, and I've ended up fostering them. So I can tell you guys about a couple of them. Well, the most recent one I had was a couple years ago. I had a dog that I named Sweatpants, and Sweatpants was a little Yorkie. And I ended up actually finding his person. He was a lost dog, but I had him for about a week. And he had lost his person, and or his person had lost, they'd become separated from each other. And he was not neutered. So that was frustrating because when I found the person, I was like, okay, I have your dog, but can I help your dog get neutered? They were resistant to it at first, but I ended up being able to convince them to, with my help, get that dog neutered, which was great. I also fostered, the longest term foster dog I ever had was a dog named Adeline. And she was a little puppy that I saved from a drain pipe. Somebody had gotten my number through knowing that I did work with kittens and called me and said, I know you don't work with puppies, but there's a puppy living in a drain pipe near my house. So I actually went out, and it was like a 2-day process of trying to get this little puppy out of a drain pipe. I had to use a feral cat trap to catch this puppy. And she ended up being the most lovely little puppy. She was a little black lab. I have no idea why she was living in a drain pipe. I thought she was going to be feral, and the first thing I did with her was put a muzzle on her because I was scared. I didn't have experience working with small dogs, especially small feral dogs. And I was worried about getting bit, but oh my God, she ended up being the nicest dog. I had her for probably maybe 6 weeks or something, and then I found her a home with a family that had another black lab, so that was really nice. Excuse me, fussy girl, should we eat some meats? Should we eat some meats and show them how good you are? She is so funny when she eats meats. I hope that she'll do it on camera because when she eats, do you guys remember the game, what is it called? Hungry Hungry Hippos? Where the hippos, it's if you're too young for the game Hungry Hungry Hippos, it was these plastic hippos that you have balls in the middle of it and you're trying to catch all the balls with the hippos. It's a game. And the hippos are that's how they eat. That is how she eats. She eats like a hungry, hungry hippo. It's so funny. So let's see if we can get her to eat something. Come here, girl. Come here. You guys might be grossed out by how I do this because I do have to hold the meats for her. She does not know how to eat out of a dish yet. So just like with human babies, a lot of being a mom is just gross. And you have to do a lot of nasty stuff. But if I hold her meat for her, she figures out how to eat it. Let's see if she can do it. Sometimes I have to pick up a small piece of it and put it in her mouth for her. Is that good? Do you remember what that is? So she's in a funny phase right now because she's not really loving the bottle anymore, but she hasn't quite figured out food yet. So a lot of her eating is me putting food directly into her mouth. She also does have crunchy food, which I don't often do with kittens, but I'm doing it with her because she was trying to eat her litter, and her litter kind of looks like crunchy food, so I was like, well, if she's figuring out how to eat crunchy stuff, she might as well eat something that's actually edible and not her litter. You don't want to eat right now? She's sort of been snacking all morning, but this is something that I'll do with her, is just give her some bites. And she does like it. If you guys can see her face while she's eating it. She's very happy. That's the face of an obligate carnivore eating meat. Very happy. Okay, so let's see what other questions we have. So I'm looking at questions that are on social media. I'm also looking at questions that are coming through on here. So definitely if you have something that you want to talk about, please put it in the chat. I will do my best to answer. Okay. Ooh, a bunch just came through. Okay. Oh my God, my hair's getting in the meats. This is, I mean, you can see. This is, I am always covered in meats and tunas. Okay. Here's a question. Is fostering expensive? Is a question that's on here. So the answer is, depends on how you do it. If you're fostering independently, like you're not working with a group, you find a kitten outside and you decide you're going to foster them, then yeah, you would end up spending money on going to the vet and on the supplies and all of that. But fostering most of the time is free or very cheap. And that's because animal shelters and animal rescue groups, they have foster programs. So the program enables you to sign up with the program, and then they sponsor all of your care. So if you're working with an animal shelter, they will pay for the costs of everything that happens. They handle all the medical care for you. They do the spay neuter. They do the vaccine. They might even give you some of the food or litter. It depends on the organization. So that's a good question to ask when you're, talking to an organization about fostering through them is, hey, do you guys provide any supplies, or, what medical care is or is not provided? Most of the time, all of the medical care is provided. So the only thing you have to spend is time and love and, use of your home. But it doesn't have to cost you money to foster. I mean, I can tell you when I was 20 years old and fostering, I was like totally broke, but I was able to do it. Now, I know I got a question, and let me find it because I thought it was a great question. I had a question that was sort of related to this that someone had asked. Where did it go? Somebody was asking, do I think that it is better to, I don't know where it is, but there was a question on social media that was, do I think it's better for people to foster independently or through an organization? And again, I would say that it really depends on what you're trying to do. So there's some pros and cons to fostering independently or for an organization. I think the good thing about fostering independently, not with an organization, is that you can do whatever you want. So, if you have a kitten who has a medical need that a shelter wouldn't be able to care for, you can throw a spaghetti potluck fundraiser and raise all the money you need and do all of the care that that kitten needs without having to ask anybody for permission. But the downside is you're on your own. You don't have support to get them the vaccines and the spay neuter and to get them posted for adoption and to do all of that stuff. I think the benefits to working with an organization way outweigh the cons. I think the only downsides for some people of working with an organization are that, you are subject to whatever their resources are. So if you're working for an organization and they don't have the resources to do something medically with a special needs kitten you have or something like that, that can be really hard for foster parents. And I know, sometimes a kitten gets sick, the organization isn't able to provide the care, and foster parents will just go do it anyway. That is something that you can do, but it's hard. So I think, there's good and bad things. I've done both. When I first started fostering, I did it by myself, and it was really, really hard because when you're an independent person, you don't get discounts at the vet. You definitely don't get free vet care. You don't get free supplies. And so you're totally on your own, and that can be hard. But then when I work with an organization, honestly, it's been a really good experience fostering for shelters. But there were times where it's like, oh my gosh, I wish I could just take this kitten to my vet and get them medication that maybe the shelter wants you to go to their vet. So it's all about the individual person. I would say definitely being hooked up with an organization is the best way to go, though, because you have a support system then, and that's what it's all about. Rosalita is in the litter box spinning around in circles right now. You don't even use the litter box. She still hasn't figured out the litter box, so she's just taunting me right now, spinning in circles off screen. Do you want to come back over here and say hi to your friends? As I sit here with gross meat fingers. So, hi. Okay, I have a question about what is the worst that could happen with Rosalita's head tilt. Well, really right now what we're considering are the likelihood of either an inner ear infection or polyps. And those are things that if she has polyps, it's possible she could need surgical procedure to remove that. And that would be scary for me just because any surgery is a risk, obviously. Even the MRI is a risk because they have to go under anesthesia and be in a very cold room during it. And so that's why we can't do it right now. She's too young to go under anesthesia, especially for the period of time that you have to be under to do an MRI. So that is, in and of itself, just the diagnostics of it is a little scary to me. But we will do everything to make sure that she is safe. My hope is that her head tilt will kind of subside over the next couple weeks and we won't have to do any of that. But if we have to do it, then some of the possibilities are, having something wrong in her inner ear, or she could have brain damage. I don't know how that would have happened because I've known her since she was a couple hours old, but it's possible that she has head trauma from birth or from something that happened in her first hours of life before I met her, which sounds crazy because, we've known her forever. She could have a seizure disorder. She could have all sorts of stuff going on. So we just don't know, and we can't know, unfortunately, until she is old enough to do diagnostics with relative safety. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. Oh, gosh. Okay, this is a great question from Kayla. The question is, I'm curious as to your opinion on cats being indoor or outdoor. So this is a great question. I think that it varies so much, not just culturally, but even just over the course of time. Like our expectations of cats and our understanding of what is ethical or unethical with cats changes so much over time, and also from country to country or culture to culture. So I know that, here in the United States, most people who work in animal welfare feel that the most ethical thing is for cats to be indoor only. And in other parts of the country or in other parts of the world, there are countries where it is considered very unethical for a cat to be indoor only, that they should really have the ability to be outdoors. My opinion on it is that it's really complicated. I think that, that cats definitely are enriched by being able to be outdoors, but they are slightly more unsafe when they're able to be outside. Obviously, there are risks inherent with being outside. And so I think it depends on the cat, honestly. If it is a feral cat living in a colony, obviously those cats are going to live outside. There's slightly increased risk for those cats because they do live outside where there's predators and there's cars and all of that. But of course, we face the same risks being outside ourselves. So I think for feral cats, yes, being outside is fine for them. For a pet cat, if you are trying to give your cat the safest experience possible, then certainly having them be an indoor cat is the best way to go. A kitten like Rosalita, she's never been outside other than her first hours, and so she would be totally clueless outdoors. So my kittens do get adopted into indoor homes. However, my cats do get to go outside in a managed way. So my cats are harness trained and they get to go out on a leash. So it's kind of like having a dog, right? You don't let your dog run around the neighborhood, hopefully, but you might take your dog on a walk or take them to the dog park, right? So people don't think you can do that with a cat, but you totally can. There's a book that I highly recommend. It's called Adventure Cats. And Adventure Cats is all about cats who go on adventures and how to help your cat be an adventure cat too. Now, you should note, not every cat wants to be an adventure cat. There's a quiz in that book that will help you understand your cat's personality type and whether they want to go outside or not. But I can tell you my cat, Coco, my black cat, she absolutely loves being able to go outside. Okay, you're eating litter. That's not going to work. Why don't we eat something crunchy that is edible? Look at this. Look at this. She's still figuring out what's going on with food. Look, this is crunchy food. She's like, I don't know what that is. I just want to eat my litter. you go. You can eat that. So to answer your question, I think that indoor-only cats, obviously, they live safer lives, but sometimes we forget that they're still cats. They're still animals that deserve the dignity of a full life. And so if we're going to have indoor-only cats, we need to treat them a certain way. We need to give them enrichment. We need to give them opportunities to climb. We need to give them opportunities to scratch and feel like a predator, because they are a predator. So that's why I'm constantly playing with my cats. I'm constantly, giving them environmental enrichment in the home, things they can climb, scratch on, perch on, giving them different ways of feeling like they're hunting, whether it's toys that go across the floor or fly through the air or whatever it is. I think that cats really have a right to have a full and happy life in that way. So if we're going to have them indoors, we need to do it in a really thoughtful and respectful way that allows them to live a full existence. Now, on that same topic, I got a lot of questions on social media this morning that were very, very similar. So let's find one. They were all about playing with kittens and specifically biting. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's just a bunch of them. There's a bunch of questions about, what kind of behavior do you teach your kittens in order to prepare them for adoption? Like how not to associate human feet with attackable toys. And a lot of questions like that. So I would love to answer that question. I really should do an instructional video about this because it's one of the main questions people ask me. Like, how do you get kittens to stop hunting you and biting you and attacking you? Well, can you guys see Rosalita right now? Because she's being so cute. Let's just bring you into the frame. She's hanging out on her mom cat. That looks very cozy. There we go. Hanging out with Rosalita. So how do you teach a kitten or a cat not to bite people? Well, the main reason that cats are biting or attacking or jumping is because they are a predator species. They want to hunt stuff that moves. So when something moves, it triggers a response in a cat's brain that says, hey, that thing's moving, that's a prey item. I'm going to attack that. And so we have to be giving them that opportunity. Like I was just saying, cats are predators, and when they're outside, they have lots of opportunities to experience that, the thrill of the hunt, seeing something move, stalking it, chasing it, attacking it, killing it, and eating it. That is the natural rhythm of a cat. And so, oh goodness, she's like, it is? I'm a killer? Yes, you are. You're a killer. And so when a cat is indoors, they're going to, one, be much more bored than they are when they are a cat living a natural life outside. And so we have to understand that we have to give them opportunities to experience, hunting. And so when we don't do that, they hunt us. And that makes a lot of sense because they still have that instinct. So one thing that I do with my kittens is I play with them from a really young age, even though Rosalita is not even interested in toys yet. I still am playing with her now so that she learns, hey, when things move around that look like this, or look like this, or look like this, or any of these kinds of toys, she knows that those are things that she can attack. Now, if she attacks my hand or my foot, I just disengage. Playtime ends there. So you just disengage. You don't encourage that. A thing that I see a lot of people do with kittens that is not a good move is they'll take their hand and kind of go like this with the kitten, right? And they kind of are encouraging them to look at their hand as something to be hunted. Now, that might not bother you if you're taking care of a little kitten like Rosalita, but trust me, once she's older and she's trying to bite people and she's a big cat, that's not going to make her highly adoptable. It's not going to have, oh, she's falling asleep. Can you guys see this? Her head's going to fall. She's falling asleep. And now I've put myself in a position where my hand is like holding her butt up, and if I let go, she's going to fall. You got so sleepy because you were playing so much. So how do you get cats not to attack your hands and feet? Well, you play with them more. You give them more opportunities to hunt something that is moving. It's not enough to just drop these toys in here and expect them to play and feel like they've had all of their hunting needs met. Because this doesn't move. This is not exciting to them. What's exciting to them is a feather toy that's whipping across the floor or flying through the air. It's a mouse that's being dangled over their head. It's laser pointers. It's things that you are actively doing with them, or even, letting them go on walks outside on a harness, if you can train them to do that. All of those things are going to give your cat much more enrichment. It's going to give them a much happier experience so that they're not looking for something to attack. But if the only thing they ever see move past their head is your foot, then you can guarantee they're going to attack your foot. That's just how it is. Okay. Let's see. What other questions do you have? Could Rosalita have poor depth perception or other vision issues? Yes, she absolutely does have a lot of those issues. And it's hard because I am trying to give people information about what's going on with her without doing too much. I don't want to start worrying people about things that may or may not be an issue for her. But since we're all here and we're all friends, I can tell you guys that there are some other things that I see with her neurologically that are different. So I'll tell you guys, and it'll only be the 987 of us here together that will know this about her, because I haven't been really sharing every single detail about her online. But some of the other things that I see with her are vision issues. I honestly have had many times where I was like, can she see at all? And she can. She does. She can track. She just tracks really poorly. No. She won't really track that well. And she doesn't have a strong blinking reflex. So, when I go to touch her, she doesn't really blink. The way that I noticed that is because I kiss her a lot, and I was kissing her face, and I was realizing I was kissing her on the eyeball. I was like, why are you so wet? Oh, because that's your eyeball. So that's a little weird because they should have a blinking reflex at this age, and she kind of doesn't. If I wanted to, I could just touch her eyeball. So she does definitely have some vision issues. It seems like sometimes she is sort of looking off at something that I don't see that she does see. And that's partly why we took her to the neurologist as well, between the head tilt, the vision stuff, the blinking reflex, walking backwards in a circle, hissing at her own body and stuff like that. I was like, okay, this is definitely a neurologically different kitten. She is a total sweetheart, but she's a little different. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as she gets older. I mean, unfortunately, really only time can tell some of these things. But the good thing is, she eats great. She poops and pees great. She looks absolutely beautiful. Her body condition is fantastic. So I'm happy with how she's growing. I just think she might have some neurological differences, and that's okay. All right, I'm going to move my hand. Are you going to fall? Whoop. Whoop. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, spaghetti-o. There you go. There you go. That's cozy. It's nice and cozy. She couldn't be more cute. Look at her. You got so exhausted from playing, huh? You got exhausted. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. Yeah, a couple people have asked, does she have CH? No, she does not. She doesn't wobble at all. She just has her head tilt. Okay. How do you get help with medication as a foster parent? Well, you always work with a veterinarian. So nothing replaces working with a veterinarian. We have several veterinarians that we work with, and they do all the prescribing, and we can make suggestions. I'll bring a kitten in and say, hey, this is kind of what I think is going on, but obviously it's a medical professional's job to diagnose and prescribe treatment to an animal, and only they can do that. Now, there are some things that are over the counter that are just kind of like typical things that you would do with a kitten, such as dewormer. Dewormer is something, Pyrantel is something that you can buy on Amazon. And that's something that I do think if you're working with kittens, at a minimum, people can learn how to, buy Pyrantel online and dose it to the weight of a kitten. Deworming is a really important thing when you're working with kittens because almost all of them are filled with gross parasites when you get them. And then it's our job to help them not be filled with gross parasites, right? Should we do, you're feeling playful all of a sudden. That was like the tiniest little micro nap of your life. So maybe we should do some playtime with her. What do you guys think? I brought a bunch of toys in here. Now, like I said, she is like pretty different. She doesn't have a ton of interest in toys, but you know what she likes more than anything is this toilet paper tube, which I think is very cute. She likes this a lot. Oh, you're doing your head tilt. I'm going to show everybody your head tilt. Sometimes it's very dramatic. A lot of the time it's just minor, but sometimes it gets very dramatic. Let's see what we have. So here's a toy that's very interesting. This is a box of pizza. What do you think about this? This is an entire box you can sit in. This is like a funny little pizza in a box with lots of little pizza toys. Do you want to check this out? It's like a nice crunchy mat. What do you think of that? Rosalita's first box. Is that kind of cool? I think she likes it. Okay, so while we're enjoying watching her play with that, let's see if we have other questions. I know that I had a bunch on social media that I will look at. Okay, this is a question from social media. If you think your city could benefit from a low-cost spay-neuter clinic or TNR initiative, if they don't have one, how do you start? Wow, that's a huge question. How do you start a low-cost spay-neuter initiative for your city or county? Well, I think that you would definitely want to have a coalition of people. So, oh, she's being very feisty with this yellow pepper. Are you hunting a yellow pepper? We just told them cats aren't supposed to be vegan, and now you're hunting a yellow pepper. I don't know if you can hear her. She's growling at this thing. What are you doing? Okay, so definitely if you're looking to start something as big as like a low-cost municipal program, I would start a coalition, so working with other people, probably people from your local shelter, maybe from a local veterinary clinic, and maybe people from the local government who can work together to try to make this happen. A lot of the like bigger low-cost initiatives that happen, like affordable spay-neuter programs at the municipal level, they're going to have to go through some kind of, like city program. So we worked on something like this in Maryland. I worked on a low-cost spay-neuter initiative there, and that was a collection of a bunch of us who were involved in animal welfare in that community, working with the local government to push for basically having that be part of their government program was being able to have low-cost spay-neuter for the county in Anne Arundel there. So I think that's something that you can do. It is something that I would start working with other people on. I would start going to your city council meetings or your county council meetings and trying to get support from council members there. And of course, the other thing you can do is you can start your own nonprofit fundraise and be able to create those resources yourself. There are a lot of really creative ways that people do this with limited resources. I know that all over the country there are things like mobile clinics that pop up where it's almost like the food truck of spay-neuter clinics. It's like a mobile unit that can drive around and provide spay-neuter. And that's something that, anybody can work up towards. But it's not something you can do alone. You have to work with other people in your community who have fundraising skills, who are veterinarians, and really like coalition build to make that happen. So I would say if you're starting at totally square one, you're just an individual who cares, the best thing to do is start volunteering and getting to know people in that community, and letting them know, hey, I'm really serious about making this happen, and being one of the people who helps coordinate this massive effort. But it's a big effort to do big things for animals, for sure. What did you think of that pizza? I think that was a little intense for you. That was a little intense. You got kind of serious about that. Look at this mushroom. What do you think of this one? So she is batting at stuff. That's good. I think she likes the pizza. Okay, let's see. Oh, sorry, that was spooky. Okay, any recommendations for first-time kitten owners I'm adopting in the new year, and I want to know what kind of things to get my cat? That's an awesome question. So if you're adopting a kitten, oh, she just found her water bowl for the first time. That was funny. Yeah, that's very wet. If you are a first-time kitten parent, definitely, you're gonna get things like food and water dishes, food and litter boxes and litter to put in them. That's the stuff that most people think, okay, that's what I need to get. And a lot of the times it ends there for people, but that is not where it should end. I highly recommend investing in some environmental enrichment for your home, things that the cat is going to love and really make them feel like it's their home too. So I don't recommend just doing like a kitten corner. You can have a kitten space where they feel like that is their zone and that's their home base. But I recommend additionally having zones for them all throughout the house where they feel like they're really part of your family. Excuse me? Excuse. Oh my goodness. So I recommend having things like cat trees, perches, hammocks, things that they can climb and sleep on, places that they can go to hang out. Anywhere where you can put like a window perch is a great thing. That's something that I always recommend to my adopters is like if you have a great window, let the cat be able to see out that window. Even if you just put a piece of furniture against it and then a bed on top of that they can sleep on. Definitely a variety of toys. You want to get all sorts of different things that they can play with, things that make noise, like crunchy toys. You want to get wand toys that you can play with them with. You might want to get some automated toys. There are things that move around on their own. So many different things that you can get for them, but please don't forget about their enrichment. That is, I've been talking about that all morning, but basically, having a cat is a lot more than just feeding them and giving them, a place to go to the bathroom. It's a lot more than that. You want to make sure their life is very, very full. On my website, I do have a link. It's kittenlady.org/supplies. And that will give you a couple of suggestions for things you can do. There's links on there to like, for instance, little hideaways like this, tunnels that they can play with, things like that you can buy that are cheap but that your cat will love. And then, of course, there are things that you can do for them that are not even cat things. Giving them boxes to play in. And this time of year, wrapping paper is a big thing. Cats absolutely love wrapping paper. So just, while you're preparing, start thinking about what are the things you can do to have your cat have a really good experience. Another thing that I really like are the pheromone diffusers. That's a thing that if you like, I've talked about them a lot on social media, but there's plug-in diffusers you can get that basically mimic a cat's pheromones and help the environment feel really safe to them. It emits a pheromone that only cats can really detect, but it makes them feel very calm, at peace, and at home. So that's another thing that you could think about getting for your cat. But definitely check out my website to see what supplies are on there. How old does a kitten have to be before they can be adopted? That's a great question. Now, I know we have people from all over the world who watch this channel, and so it really varies depending on where you are. So I know in Europe, it's much later than it is here in the United States, and then in other parts of the world, it might be even earlier than it is here. But here in the United States, we adopt kittens out at 8 weeks old. 8 weeks is really when they are biologically independent enough to be able to go to a new home, and basically they're a tiny cat at that point. They're not dependent on their moms anymore. They're not dependent on a foster parent. They really are able to eat quite well on their own, use the litter box, do all the stuff that they have to be able to do. There's an important reason that we adopt them out at that age, and that is that there are so many kittens in the United States. There's 860,000 animal cats dying in shelters every year. It's really important that we're able to get them out in a quick manner. So, Rosalita here, I don't want to have her until she's 6 months old because that would prevent me from being able to save more of them. So, the goal really is to get them out once they're independent enough to be adopted into a home. The other good thing about 8 weeks is that is when in the United States, most veterinarians are able to safely perform surgery to do spay and neuter for them. So typically the way it works is, we get kittens here I got her when she was 0 days old. She's 5 weeks old now, so in 3 weeks she'll be 8 weeks old, and she should be about 2 pounds. That's when they can be safely spayed or neutered. And then after that, that's when they get adopted. So that's how it works here in the United States. I know it does work really differently in some other countries, but that's what it typically is here. Okay. You guys are so funny. I really like some of the things that you guys are saying on here. Okay. I'm taking my cat on a trip. Do you have any advice? Well, it depends on how you're traveling. I do have a video. That's my tea. You don't want that. I do have a video. Oh my gosh, she got cat hair in my tea. Well, that's my life. That sums up my life. I have a video on my channel that is about how to travel by plane. If you're traveling by plane, it is totally something you can do with the cat. My first piece of advice, though, whether you're going by car or by plane, is don't do it unless you have to. Cats really don't like traveling. It's very stressful for them. So unless there's a real need that you have to, for instance, if you're moving or if you're going somewhere for 6 months or something like that, in those cases, yeah, you're going to take your cat with you. Excuse me. But you want to avoid that if you can. Now, if you're taking your cat by car or by plane, there are things that you could do to make that a good experience for them. You obviously want to pack the right supplies so that you have everything that you need for them. Keep them contained. I see a lot of people who put the cat in their car and then they kind of let them walk around loose because they think that's going to be less stressful for them. I promise you that is more stressful for them. One thing that can help when you're working with cats, whether they're feral or your pet cats, is to give them some darkness when you're traveling with them. So I will, even with my kittens sometimes, just put a blanket, loosely, obviously you want them to have ventilation, but just put a blanket or a sheet or something to cover so that they're not looking around and getting really stressed out by all of the new sights. That can help calm them down a little bit because they're contained, it's dark. But of course, if you're doing a really long trip, I do recommend talking to a veterinarian because there are things that they can do. There are even medications they can give that are light sedatives to help them just feel calm during that experience. I have lots and lots of tips in my video. It's called How to Fly with a Cat. If you're flying in particular, there's a lot of things that you need to know about how to do that correctly and safely. Let's see. I have a comment from Phoebe. Hey, Hannah, thanks for saving the little guys and inspiring people, including myself, to make a difference. Thank you. And you're in Canada. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. Oh. So there's a lot, there's just so much coming in. It's hard. Okay, here's a good question. What if your cat hates being picked up? This is a really funny question to me because it kind of reminds me of that thing where like you go to the doctor and you go, hey, doctor, it hurts when I do this. And they say, okay, don't do that. And that's the answer. The answer, if your cat hates being picked up, is don't pick up your cat. You know, some people don't like being hugged. And what do you do if a person doesn't like being hugged? You don't hug them. And that's just it. It's the same thing with cats. So my cat Coco really does not like being picked up, but she likes every other form of affection. So what do? I pet her, I brush her, I wait until she jumps into my lap, and then she feels like she's in control, and then I'm able to, cuddle with her and all of that. But I never forcefully pick her up because she doesn't like it, and that's okay. I think having cats, sometimes we think of them as like a stuffed animal or something. Like they're our property, so we should be able to do whatever we want with them. But that is totally a gross way of looking at having an animal in your life. I think you should look at them more like a friend. You know, if your friend doesn't like tea, are you going to make them tea anyway and be like, well, I want you to drink tea, so what do I do to make you drink tea? Well, you don't force somebody to drink tea if they don't want tea. You don't force a cat to be picked up if they don't want to be picked up. Now, it's been like 57 minutes, so we're going to just do a little bit more, and then I have to run because I'm leaving tomorrow for the holidays. I don't know if you guys have holiday plans, but Andrew and I are going to Pennsylvania tomorrow, and we'll be gone for about a week, so I actually will not have a Catterday video next weekend, and I apologize for that, but try and take a little tiny holiday break, so we'll be in a cabin in Pennsylvania. But I'll see if there's just a couple last questions. Okay. What kinds of wet food do you recommend for a kitten? My current foster isn't liking the food we have, Patricia. So Patricia, first of all, thank you for fostering. That's awesome. Second of all, I totally get you. I have a lot of experiences like that where like a food works for a lot of my kittens and then all of a sudden nobody wants that food and I'm like, is something wrong with this food? And then I get a new food, they love it, and then they stop loving that and you have to get a new one. So my recommendation, honestly, if you do a lot of fostering, is to just like have 3 or 4 different kinds of food on hand. So I keep several different types of food. Right now, Rosalita's eating this kind. It's wellness pate. It's kitten. So as long as it says kitten on it and it's a wet food, then that's something that you can try for them. There are really cheap brands and then there are really expensive brands and everything in between. The important thing is that it says kitten and that it's a wet food. So I have this one. I have Royal Canin. We have Blue Buffalo. We have Tiki Cat. We have a bunch of different brands here that we use, and we just kind of alternate them depending on what the cat seems to like. I know that happens even for adopters. They go to the new home, and then all of a sudden the kitten doesn't like the food that I recommended that they were eating here, but they love something else. So I just recommend trying different things. I mean, maybe even go to the pet store and buy like one of every kind of kitten food and see what that specific animal likes. The other funny thing is I always talk about wet food with kittens. But you can do dry food with kittens as long as they are still either getting a supplemental bottle or they are able to confidently drink water. And while my preference is not dry food, I will do it with some kittens, especially like Rosalita, who is currently eating litter. Excuse me, currently eating litter. Look, I caught her. She's got litter in her mouth. Come on, girlfriend. We're better than that. See? So a kitten like this who is wanting to eat crunchy stuff, I would just give instead, like, here, this is a piece of crunchy food. And this actually tastes good. She's like, oh, wait a minute. It does taste kind of good. So that's your crunchy food. So I will let them kind of choose. It's kind of like what mom cat would do in nature. And mom cat brings kittens all sorts of different things. She brings them weak prey. She brings them already dead animals. She brings them a variety of stuff. And then they learn their preferences. They develop preferences for whether they're into mice or into birds or into, taking hoagies out of the dumpster or whatever it is. And so they develop their own preferences from a young age. And I think the best we can do is just give them variety and see what they like. Okay. Oh my gosh, Patricia says, I've been fostering for over a year now. I've fostered 25 or so kittens. That is amazing. How many people who are in the chat have fostered before? Just put like a hand so I can see all the hands come through if you have fostered before. And if you haven't, are you kitten curious? Are you interested in fostering? I think there's a lot of young people on this channel who maybe are not old enough to sign up to foster yet, but who I hope will do that when they get older. Hopefully inspired by little babies like Rosalita, who is now just romping around inside her strawberry. We don't put her in here. She actually goes in here willingly. She loves this thing, and I think I would love to have something like that too. So I see a lot of hands coming through. You guys are awesome. You are awesome. Okay. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up because I do have to go literally wrap some Christmas gifts and go do my holiday stuff. But I want to thank everybody who's on here. If you are part of, whether you're part of my social media or whether you're donating or whether you are a foster parent or you follow me on my channel, it's really meant a lot to me to have the support of everybody this year. And there's some really, really exciting things ahead for 2019. If you don't know already, I do have a book coming out next year. And that is probably, without a doubt, the most exciting thing I've ever done. So 2019 is going to be a really big and exciting year for me, and I think for kittens, because there will be a lot more resources out there for them next year that I've been working very, very, very hard on. So I know you guys can't always see every single thing that I'm doing. I try to share as much as I can, but I've been working so hard this year on that book. And on also my nonprofit organization, Orphan Kitten Club, which we'll have some really exciting announcements about for 2019 as well. But if you want to support the nonprofit, you can go to orphankittenclub.org. We have a donate button. There's actually right now, between now and the end of the year, anybody who has donated $25 or more for the entire year. So if you've already donated, or if right now you go on the website and you donate $25, you get a Rosalita sticker, and that's only for people who supported it in 2018. So if you are a donor, then thank you so much. If you're not, you can totally do that. We'll have some really exciting initiatives starting next year that I cannot wait to share with you guys. But 2019 is going to be huge. It's going to be really, really cool. And my book coming out. I also have a children's book coming out that I haven't even really talked about, but I've been working really hard. So I definitely need a little break. I'm going to be taking a break for the next couple days, and I won't be doing another video this year. This will be my last video for 2018. And then I'll see you guys all in the new year and be able to share some of the exciting stuff that's going on. So thank you guys so much for being here. We can say one final goodbye to Rosalita. I'll bring her up so you guys can see her up close with all of her glory. She is just a very, very beautiful girl. So here she is. So thank you guys for joining. I thought this would be a really nice way for us to, celebrate the holidays and the new year and all of the really important work that's being done out there on behalf of kittens. If you are part of it, I am so grateful to you. I feel better and better all the time about the future for kittens, honestly, because there's more and more people stepping up and saving their lives. So thank you for being a part of that. And Rosalita, thanks you too. You're being so good and so cute. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Bye-bye.